How y'all doing? Yo, we're starting the season off hot. I'm excited. Thank you all for being here. And a wonderful crowd as always. Thank you all for coming out on a weeknight. I have 2 children. I don't know what day it is ever. But this is great. We're so excited to have you and excited to, start this season off, and hope you'll join us for the events as we get through the fall. And so that I'm Ray, and I'm one of the board members at Center for Communications, and I always like to start off panels with getting to know you all just a little bit so that we can make sure we are getting you the best information for where you're all doing, what you're all headed into. So just show of hands or shout it out. How many of you all, have already graduated school? Okay, great. And then folks still in college, looking for internships and opportunities, awesome. And then when we think about roles and things like that, and I know some of you are probably still figuring this out, but anybody who, shout out some things. Producers, we have some producers. Writers, produce sound, directors, editors.
Photography.
Okay, we got it all, baby.
We can make a production house right now.
I know, I was gonna say. So thank you, wonderful panel, for joining us, and we're going to get to know our panelists a little bit, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself as well, and we can get into it. So jumpstarting a career in media, as we all know, it's a hard thing to do, but it's absolutely doable, and we're here to always give you guys optimism, hope, and tangible things that you can do to get going. So why don't we kick off a little bit? Maybe, Venus, you can just start us off. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We learned about what you do, but what exactly is your role and what you're focused on now?
Sure. Again, my name is Venus Anderson. I'm the Director of Programs at the Made in New York PA training program and also the post-production training program. I started with the organization back in 2011 as a coordinator, and I worked my way up to the director level around 2015. And from there, I saw a lot of eager faces and people who were interested in working in the film industry in New York City, but they didn't know quite where to start. And I know that feeling, having graduated college and looking for a job and not having a whole lot of related internship experience because I was always picked over. I just didn't know anybody. So I had the fortune of also being a Made in New York graduate way back in 2008. So I worked on set, I PA'd, I've done some coordinating. And then I decided to work with the program. So I guess I was the most relatable person on the staff.
Nice.
When I first started working there, and now I'm totally unrelatable because I'm old. But no, being the director, you see people from all over New York City who are interested in wanting to work in the film industry. And the program definitely gives people a leg up. You're learning in those 4 weeks of training in the training program, set etiquette, how to work on set, working conditions, financial coaching, just how to conduct yourself as an entry-level production assistant. And hopefully, giving you the inspiration and the passion to advance from there. I heard a lot of people say they want to be writers and, do camera and sound, and Brian is definitely a product of the program who is now, fulfilling that dream. So, just how to be appropriate on set and work your way up is where we start in the program.
That's great. That's so fantastic, Venus, and such an important thing that folks have been on set. I was laughing because some of the first times that I was on set, I got super intimidated by the things that people were saying on walkies, flying in with hot bricks. I'm like, what? What are they talking about? But that's the whole thing, right?
Right.
Getting comfortable, getting exposure, and knowing that it's okay to not know all the things. And part of it is just getting in there and observing and paying attention, and you'll learn.
Right.
All right, so again, my name is Brian Joseph. I graduated from the program this October. This October will be 13 years.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I spent the first 2.5 years working as a production assistant until I eventually found my way into sound completely by accident. But it worked out for the best because that took me all the way to 52. And October 2019, so just a couple months before the pandemic. But luckily, I was able to get onto a job right out the gates. And aside from, a pandemic and a strike, we've been pretty busy. And I'm happy to say that I've been on a major job every year since I joined the union. So
Wow.
I feel fortunate for that.
Can
And
you tell us a little bit about what it takes to get into the union? How does that happen?
Well, first they have to open their doors because a lot of people who are looking to join are waiting for when 52 particular will open applications again. Then you have to fill out the specific requirements. Like, for example, you have to have OSHA and lift certification. You have to pass a written and practical test, pay a very heavy fee. But once you do all that, then you're pretty much set.
Great. Thank you, Brian. That's wonderful.
Hi, I'm Anika.
Anika, yeah.
I'm a script coordinator and writer for DreamWorks for Gabby's Dollhouse. Yeah, so this role is pretty interesting. I got this gig in 2020 of August during the pandemic, and where there was no networking. This position is also in LA, so the way I had found out about it was LinkedIn. And the Post had a DreamWorks unannounced show that was opening up, and the position was in New York. And I was like, DreamWorks has New York employees? Turns out I'm like one of the two. But at the time, I just used my researching to find out exactly what the show was, who was on the team, and I asked for an informational for one of the members on the team, a coordinator, so a position that I was looking to be in, not like the executive producer. And they met with me and we hit it off, and I skipped the DreamWorks, I think, application wall because I had this one-on-one connection with this team member who ended up being an important voice in getting these applications directly to the EPs, and I was interviewed within the week, and then the rest was history, and I've been working there ever since. So I definitely feel very close to what it's like to be networking, when things are awry, and I hope to delve more into that as we go further, but that's how I got into the role.
Very cool. That's great. That's great to know that LinkedIn works sometimes. I know it's tough. I know it can be
It is tough. It's tough.
Yeah. Nicole.
Hey y'all, how you doing? Good? No, baby? Possibly? I'm Naquan, and I currently work at BET as a senior digital producer. What that basically means is that everything that y'all see on the linear network, I'm in charge of making sure it gets a place on the website and the apps. So how I got my start. I actually found out about BET through one of my friends who's also my posse, like my fellow posse member. Any of y'all familiar with like posse scholarship? Yeah, so I'm a posse scholar. And I was in news at the time, and I wanted to do something different. I wanted to get more into like entertainment. And she hit me up and told me that it was a job available at BET. So I reached out to the guy who was my former boss as of right now, and I had an interview, I think, probably like within that week after I reached out to him. And I took the interview like at my dad's house, like in his room. I was trying to like be quiet and everything. And then I got called in for an actual interview, and then I got the job probably like, I think I found out I got the job probably that next day. And I've been there for like 10 years now. This May just made 10 years, so.
10 years. That's amazing. Wow, what a great panel. So diverse in the things that you all do. Thank you for sharing that. Briefly, I'll just tell you about myself as well. I'm a producer. I have a company called Culture House, and we make TV shows. So we sell to places like BET, and we work with people like Ryan and Anika to help us make the shows. We just made a show called Ladies First on Hip Hop. Did anybody hear about it? It was on Netflix, which was great. Thank you. I'm just excited because y'all are our core audience, so it's good to know that there's like a couple people that have heard of it. All of you are currently in jobs, but I think as you think about people and colleagues, and how are people finding jobs, in your friends? And I know that you, Brian, are working show to show. How do you find your next show? And if people are working sound and they're not in the union, how can they be getting jobs? So maybe a little of that, but we can maybe start with like the day-to-day, just a touch of
Sure.
that.
I'm supervising day to day. So basically overseeing what my team is doing. Every Monday we have an orientation on Zoom online. It can be found at bwiny.org. So people like you, we have a whole audience, usually 30 to 40 people, listening to more about the program in detail, and then they fill out an application online, so you never have to come in and do that. Pre-COVID, it was always schlepping down to Brooklyn, listening, and then people would be like, oh, it's not for me, and then I'm gonna go home. But if it is for you, you fill out the application. We call you, you don't call us. But
Please don't call
right,
us.
please don't call us. But what we tell people is we do 4 classes per year. We refer to them as cycles. So if you don't get called for the one that's upcoming, you may get called for the next one, or obviously the next one, and we keep your applications on file for 1 year. So someone on my staff is reviewing, handling the interviews. Sometimes I do a second interview with that person. If you are selected, you're brought to a tryout, and that's when you meet us in person, us with the whole team. Just fast forward to where we are now, we actually have a class or a cycle in session right now. It's our 73rd class, so
Wow.
we've been around since 2006, so
Amazing.
17 years of Made in New York. For me, I've been working with the program since cycle 25, so I've seen a lot of people come in and out the door. In terms of just from this portion of not knowing much about working on set and production to being trained and then going out into the world. Obviously right now with the strikes, hopefully coming to an end soon. One of them just ended today.
Yeah.
The writers.
Yeah.
So we're happy for that, and hopefully SAG, AFTRA will follow pretty soon. Because it's really affected a lot of the work that our PAs have gotten, but thankfully as a PA you can do non-union work. So we've had some people do like reality shows or non-union commercials, documentaries, photo shoots. Fashion Week was just here, which is a good thing because we were able to connect a few of our grads to that to be able to get some work. It's not as consistent as working on an episodic TV show like a Law and Order, which those usually run for like 8 or 9 months.
Yeah.
There's certain perks that come with that, like a steady check and health benefits, but it's still a freelance world, and we prepare our people for that. And for me personally, I'm making connections with different networks and corporate entities. I'm talking to people like from Disney and NBC to make sure that the pipeline between our graduates and the work is there, because there's just so much of it anticipated to come back to New York once the strikes are over. So it's all about
great.
relationship building and networking, no matter what level you are at. You being here today is networking.
Yes.
And even if you don't get to speak with us at the end, talk to each other.
I was just going to say that,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you all hear this too, it's so important to network laterally, so to speak, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's such an important thing to take away, because of course it's important to talk to all different kinds of people, hiring managers and all that, but relationship building with people that you can work with and collaborate with, and then you recommend each other for jobs. I see that all the time. Like so many of our crews, people that we hire our AD, and then they're like, all right, who do you want to bring on? It's because people have relationships with who they work with. So it's super important to remember networking is not just the people who are hiring you, but the people that you collaborate with.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Like some people will, run to me and say, hey, do you know so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so? Like, but I'm not on set. I'm at the training program. You need to be talking to your peers, because they're the people who are on set with you. You don't know who knows who, or will be on a job and say, hey, I need, 5 other PAs, somebody who's already doing the type of job that you're doing at your level. So you definitely don't want to be dismissive of anyone. Talk to everybody, even security. You just never know, who can be your next connection, who can be your next network in this industry.
Absolutely. Brian, would love to hear a little bit about what your day looks like and the different kinds of jobs that you can do.
All right, my day-to-day varies depending on the season, and also again whether there's a pandemic or a strike. But when I started off in the non-union world, it was same as when I was a PA, starting from the bottom and working my way up. So I learned to do sound starting off as a boom operator. And then I was kind of admittedly pushed into learning how to mix, but it eventually became a very valuable skill, something that I was able to take back to the Made in New York program because I regularly visit and I encourage those who are interested in learning to take lessons with me, and sometimes I bring them onto a job as well as my intern.
Nice.
And I've been doing that very often this year, as a matter of fact. There are a couple people who actually had their first opportunity to get paid work with the training that I gave them.
Awesome.
Actually,
great.
one of the people that I trained years back, we both joined 52 together. So we're the first male-female from Made in New York to join in the
Cool.
sound department, and I'm hoping there's going to be many more after us.
Ooh,
But-
that's great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard sound. I heard there were some sound people in here, right? You heard a couple of sound people.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's part of my day-to-day, just giving people opportunity to learn. As far as on-set, again, booming, mixing, and I've done a broad range of jobs, from narrative to reality. Don't like reality much. And even projects like this, panels or talking heads. So I have a lot of experience in those type of jobs. When I got to the union, it was pretty much the same thing, starting from the bottom. So I worked as a utility. Then I worked my way up to a boom operator. Recently, I started mixing again because at that level, it really is about who you know, and it really didn't matter how good I was. And I've done a lot of films and other projects in non-union, but in the union world, nobody really knew me like that. So it was a matter of building my reputation again and getting the opportunity from someone. And luckily, I've met one or two people that did give me that opportunity. I recently started mixing at the union level. I did this film called Ezra last year, which is premiering sometime in October. For anyone who's interested, that stars Bobby Cannavale, Robert De Niro, and Rose Byrne. So look out for that.
Cool.
And after I did that film, that gave me the confidence to push myself to do more mixing jobs again.
Great.
So this year, I actually started. I worked second unit for a couple episodes on And Just Like That season 2.
Fun.
And I did one day on the Walking Dead spinoff, the one with Rick and Michonne,
Cool.
and then just a whole bunch of other various projects. The last thing I did, because there's no union work, I did a behind-the-scenes project for anyone familiar with Summer Stage?
Yes.
All right, so they had one last week with a group from Brazil. So I did a lot of BTS with that, and that was just following them around with the boom, miking people occasionally to get a behind the scenes about their roles and positions and everything. So yeah, it's just any day could be something different.
That's cool. I love that. Thank you for sharing all of that. And just, I think that's what's fun also about freelancing. I mean, it's hard, but what's fun about it is that you do get to be in all these different environments and you're consistently getting to meet all different kinds of people. And I think one of the best pieces of advice that I got when I was, 20 years ago in your position was like, do all the jobs, don't be precious about what you work on. And I learned so much just by working on all different kinds of sets, all different sorts of budgets, narratives, commercials, short films, grad films, and I think that depth and wealth of knowledge is really helpful as you grow as a professional. So I would encourage folks, if a couple friends want to make a thing on a weekend, just do it. It's great. You'll learn a ton.
Yeah, I gotta say that was the mindset that I had called it in college was the yes mindset. You just say yes to any job, any gig, whether it's paid, not paid, just take it. It's just like a good learning opportunity, and you never know. And also, it's like a time to explore too, if you have the privilege to do so. How do you know if you want to do audio unless you try a project where you're doing audio. How do you know you want to write unless you write something and you're like, I enjoy this. So I definitely agree with that. But day to day for me, I think I'm the only work from home person here, remote. Yeah, is that? Hybrid, right, hybrid.
You're trying to count me out.
Yeah, no, my coworker is my golden retriever, Clover, and my fiance. But the way that kind of happened was we have a New York office where the showrunners, the two showrunners and one more assistant worked in near 30 Rock. But then during the pandemic, that was completely shut out. So we were virtual, but that wasn't too difficult for my team to transition to because we are a bi-coastal production. So we work from, we have this New York team, but everyone else is in LA. So my onboarding experience was really strange. It was all HR videos, and then I just joined a Google Meet for a meeting, and that was my day. And since then, I've also shifted into the script coordinator position because I initially started out as the live action coordinator and support to the executive producers. So I am very lucky in the sense where my show is animated. It's a preschool animated show, but it also has live action. So we do get 12 days out of the year where I get to see people in person and shoot for the live action portion for the show. And we do like a block shoot. So if we are filming or animating 20 episodes and those 20 episodes need, live action introductions, we would film all 20 introductions, those 3-minute blocks in those 12 days. And I was on set, so I joined in August and we filmed, I believe, in January. So that was my first experience on set as a coordinator versus an assistant. It was very different. And I was also sitting next to the executive producers, and at that point had gotten to know them over a couple of months. And I will say I do not knock assistant jobs. If you find an assistant job, I found it to be so valuable because I got to sit next to people who've had years of experience who are making decisions, and I was able to hear why their thought process was for making a creative decision day to day, and getting that experience, even though it was virtual, hearing their decisions and choices was really such a valuable experience. It was like express learning, essentially. But currently, I transitioned into script coordinator, and the way that happened was we would polish our live action portions of the scripts closer to the shoot. So we'd have like we are a freelance writer model base, so we don't have an official writer's room for our episodes. So we'll meet with writers, launch them on ideas, and they'll hand in drafts until, we start recording them. And so they put in kind of like temp dialogue, and then our EP, who's also doubling as a story editor, meaning that she has focus and makes sure she reads every iteration of the script and gives notes on every iteration. Not all EPs tend to do that, but she was saying, okay, well, Anika, we're gonna polish some scripts. Why don't you pull up the final draft and, basically act as a scribe for what we want to change. And they were so cool. My bosses, Jen Toomey and Tracy Page Johnson. If you don't know them or are not familiar with their work, they've created Blue's Clues and worked on Blue's Clues. They were a part of that marketing that, where Joe or Steve talked to us 25-year-olds about. Did anyone see that? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So it was a brilliant marketing because I cried. But so they were just so excited to hear what I had to say, and that's also really important too. You kind of have to read the room for that. Sometimes you're in rooms where just you might be an assistant or coordinator, and you can tell that no one wants to hear you speak. But I'm very lucky that in the room that I'm in, they were always advocating for me to share my opinion, and so I loved the writing process. I was like, ooh, why don't we change this to this, and use phrases like yummy buggies for like a term because we're a preschool and that's our day to day. Those words like that. But I realized that writing, although I've written always throughout, youth and high school and as a kid, I was like, wait, this is my focus. Because at first I was like, maybe I want to be a producer, but I really liked the writing process. And lo and behold, the script coordinator position opened up on the show. And so I've shifted into that. And so that day-to-day is scheduling meetings, managing the writing schedule, making sure that everything's on track and on deadline, meeting with writers, giving them notes, references, and most recently, being able to give creative writing script notes. Also, when we're brainstorming ideas for like the next season, a cool thing that we were figuring out on how to brainstorm, if you guys ever get to take a second to watch Gabby's Dollhouse, if you have nieces or nephews or whomever in your life, it is a fun and cute show, but we were figuring out like, it's a premise that is based on unboxing. You unbox a cool item that launches you into animation. And so that's what we were figuring out. What's a cool thing what would be a cool thing to open up and unbox? Like slime, and what would slime be? What about aliens? So it was like blue sky brainstorming, which is really cool. Not all rooms that I've been in work like that, but it was like very like word association. And so that had led me to pitch an idea, and then I was able to write my first episode for the show last October. So
cool.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Anika, for taking us through all of that and the differences between the roles and just kind of what that looks like on the day-to-day. You stick with it. And what I really liked about what you said, too, that I think is such a good point to pull out is the power of observation in every job and role that you take. To, you know, I've sometimes had mentees and people come to me and say, like, oh, I don't know if I'm learning stuff. I'm like, well, it's not just always about all the things that you're doing. It's also about observing the people that are, you know, senior to you and understanding their thought process and how they're making decisions and how they set up meetings. The extent that you can have access to that, that's really powerful. So to me, I always remind people, well, part of being on a job is not just what you're doing, but it's like, what are you observing?
Right.
And how can you be an active listener and sort of taking that? And sometimes I find this too when I bring people into our jobs. I love when people, you know, young people ask me later, like, hey, why did you decide to do that? Like, it shows me two things. It shows me that you're proactively listening, you're paying attention, and you're understanding how decisions and choices lead to what's on screen or what the crew and the team looks like. And it's helpful to you to develop and cultivate your decision-making process, which is, I mean, that's everything in production, right?
Okay, you ready for this? So today, I'll give y'all today. So we had a big announcement that was happening today for BET. At this point, we have announced all of our performers. So there was an announcement. We get the announcement from the PR team. The announcement comes to Naquan, and Naquan has to then decide, like, of everybody that's in the announcement, do we have all the images for that person? If we don't, then Naquan has to reach out to the talent team or the production team to get all of the images. Simultaneously, Naquan is working with another team to make sure that, like, everybody's name is credited correctly on the site. They have all the images in the proper size. If there's any other notes, like if a person like Timberland, for example, wanted to be noted as like a super producer, so I have to make sure that I communicate that note to them, right? On the other end, I also have to just like make sure like the site is working when the link actually goes live. Then I have to get like the article from the editorial team in case we don't have all the images as a backup plan, because we'll just put up the article and not have the actual page. Then once the page goes live, I'm sending that link to the social team so they can socialize it, and it's live up on the site. And that's just like an abbreviated version of everything that I had to do. So an example being today, I had to wait for an updated version of the performance announcement because some people had like dropped out or whatever happened. And this is when you kind of like use like, oh, people like working with me or Naquan. So this is when you get up from the desk and you pull up like, hey, is the announcement ready or not? Because I need to know so you can get this up on the site. That was the day. That was it.
That's a lot. Somebody's got to get it done.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too with production and work. So much of the work is detail oriented and being really sort of, I mean, it depends. I'm not good at details, so I don't do that anymore, but I tried for a long time. But in general, to I think work in the producerial roles, and it's super important to be aware of process and details, and that's part of what you can be observing in all of the roles that you take on. How do different people set that up? How do different companies and producers, directors, editors set up their process? Because I think finding your process and the way that you get to your best work is part of growing in this industry for sure. There's no template, so to speak, right? So part of the work that we all have to do is figure out like what processes do we like from the people that we're learning from, and you create your own. So that I think is something to keep in mind as you go from role to role. Yeah.
I was gonna add too, like, there are some times where you just kind of have to like take chances and make decisions. So in my role specifically, sometimes I don't have time to wait like for my manager or my boss to make the decision if we're gonna go live with like some of the performers that we have images for or all of them. So sometimes I just have to be like, oh, we're gonna go live with half of the performers. We'll update the page later, or we're gonna go live with just the article because that has all the performers. So my real point was like sometimes you just have to like make the decision and not wait for anyone.
Yeah. And adding to that, I mean, when we talk about details and deadlines, when you're dealing with writing, we're pretty much all very much like deadline oriented, and it's really important to stay organized and find what your process is to remain organized, whether that's, Google Calendar. Are you a person that needs to write things down? Creating a system, using Gmail to remind yourself to bump somebody, a writer to send that script, or yourself if you're writing, if you have a project that you're writing on, setting milestones for yourself and figuring out that workflow. So yeah.
It's all about process.
Yeah.
So if you have questions, just come on up into the aisle and write, just your name and your question, and you can kick us off.
Hi, I'm Anna Karp. I'm from NYU. I'm a senior in media, culture, and communication.
Cool.
I was wondering if you guys had the opportunity to go back before you graduated school, what would be one thing you would do? Whether it's like preparing for networking or a class or anything. I'm more in comms, so it's a little different, but.
Like mass comm?
Yeah.
Oh, my major. Fun times. I probably would attend more events at this point, network, make business cards. You want people to remember you, and don't be afraid to just dive in with those like short internships. If you want to work in film, like in the film world, or even corporate, if people want you to just work with them for like a week and shadow them, don't turn your nose up at that, even if it's free work. Like, I feel like a lot of people who are inexperienced feel like because they're about to get their degree, they're like too good for it. And it's just like, not at all. You need the experience level. So just, get out there and keep meeting people.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to add, actually, I would like just make stuff. If I could go back, I would just like create stuff. Because when you're in college, it's probably one of the few times where you have a lot of resources at your disposal that you don't have to pay a lot of money for. To just like create TV, film.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I would just like make stuff.
That's a good one. And you're around people who are
Correct.
all trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, and I have one thing to add to that. I think one thing I struggled with was accepting failure. So one thing I'm applying now, and I think applies to all stages, but is to give yourself a threshold for failure every day. Think of it like a bank account almost. Like for me, I'm like, all right, I'll give myself like 5 fails for the day. So like if something bad happens at like 8:30 in the morning, it's like, all right, I have like 4 more times to fail before I should like get upset. I think honestly, like an experience of mine that I had. I think there was a PA, oh my God, the NBC Page program. I applied, I got through half of the application and I didn't get it in college. And I was so crushed, and I was like, maybe I should consider something different. And I wish I could go back to like my 20-year-old self and say, no, just like apply to like 40 other things. It's all good. You know, and you know, what's ironic about that is now I work for NBC in this position.
Yeah.
So it'll be good, you know, so let yourself fail and be okay with it.
It'll be okay. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Oh, wait, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, it's all right. I suppose what I would have done differently, I probably would have tried to keep a lot closer to my classmates because because building on what you said, making stuff, creating
100%.
stuff, I could have been creating stuff with some of them. You know,
Yeah.
because this is something that when I mentioned that I visit the program regularly. I tell them to like try to keep in touch with each other because they're the future of production. So sometimes I do think about what my former classmates are doing now, if they're still in the production world, like I eventually got into. Who knows? They might have been in a higher ranking position. They could have needed a good sound person. Who knows? You know? So networking in that case would have definitely been advantageous, I think. So that's definitely something I would have done differently.
All right. Brian? All right.
Hi, my name is Jenna. I'm a graduate of Brooklyn College, and my question is for Anika. Would you say that there's any particular skill sets, distinguishing skill sets for working on a children's show or an animated show as opposed to an adult-oriented show or a live-action show? Because a lot of the concepts and works that I would like to work on as a aspiring screenwriter for television is kind of looking more towards like the children's television sphere. Maybe not necessarily preschool, but I'm definitely not being posted preschool, and I'm really interested in what it's like to write for that age demographic and the particular challenges that come with working around the limitations that you may have.
Yeah, and you're based in New York too?
Yes,
That's awesome.
I'm in Queens.
Me too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, you know, I think one thing I will say is sometimes it felt like there was no animation opportunities when I was starting out. That's just not true. Children's Media Association is a great program on LinkedIn to get on because they are constantly having showrunners who are mostly East Coast based, but sometimes when they're doing virtual stuff, it'll be people in LA. 9 Story Media Group is based in New York, so is some of Nickelodeon. There's a lot of Titmouse animation studios. We could also
I
talk.
have a friend who works for Titmouse in Canada, actually,
Oh,
and
nice.
he's mentioned reaching out.
You're already one step ahead by having that connection, but I think looking at those groups and seeing, you know, what position you are currently going to be interested in doing, and attending those programs are helpful, but also I think when it comes to your skill set for orienting yourself, whether you're live action or children, when you're first, at least I felt like this when I was first starting out, I was doing all kinds of genres with all kinds of demographics, and I think what most matters is just being a team player, just being positive, you know, and being passionate about children's, you know, media, and knowing like what shows are out there, and if you meet somebody who's in the field, talking to them about their favorite shows and your favorite shows and having that connection, and reaching out and on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm a big advocate of LinkedIn, obviously, 'cause, they should pay me, but they don't. But like, it really made a big difference for me during the pandemic when I was trying to find a job and like there was no even opportunity to meet like this. It was all virtual. But reaching out to people who are assistants in New York who are working in the companies that you are making the shows that you like to watch. Reaching out to them and asking, hey, do you want to grab a coffee or do you want to have a virtual coffee? Reaching out for informationals to learn about their day-to-day is really helpful. And you're steps ahead by being
Thank
here.
you.
So.
Well, if you don't mind, can you repeat the name of the first LinkedIn group that you...
Yes, Children's Media Association on LinkedIn. They will have all the companies that I mentioned ancillary, so it'll be on their website. They're really, really good. And there's also Women in Animation group, and they take mentees. So yeah, I'm all about getting on those groups.
Yeah, no, those
Thank you
groups are
so
huge.
much.
Those groups are really great.
Yeah.
And that's where you get a lot of information and job opportunities as well. Yes.
Hello, my name is Christian Cruz. I'm a junior at William Patterson in New Jersey. And my question is, as a aspiring director and a screenwriter who wants to move in 2 years to New York and has already created stuff on his own on YouTube, what would you say is a good first step to get any type of work into the industry once moving here?
Well, I think it depends. Are you interested in narrative, doc, both?
Mostly narrative.
Okay. I mean, I think that a good way to get started is always to look at what the entry-level positions are, either at, there's two ways to go about it, there's many, but independent production companies is a great place to start because networks, of course, which I'm sure you're aware of, Viacoms and the Disneys and the A&Es and all that, and you can do research on who's based here and who has like PA programs and things like that to get you in. But I think looking at shows that you like, looking at who the production companies are, you get an IMDb Pro account. Everybody, it's very helpful, and get into that so that you can go and look and see, okay, well, what's the production company behind this? Who are the agents behind this? Who are, all of the people that are like making those things? That's a really great place to start outreach and say, hey, I would love to work on this show or other things in your pipeline. And sometimes with these production companies, you will have a quicker line in to someone who's a hiring manager than, say, on the network side. So really starting and do your research and get lots of lists and spreadsheets going and contacts, and that's a good place to start. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
to add on to that, when you compile those lists and you end up reaching out, knowing what your brand is, so you very clearly saying like you're an aspiring screenwriter and director, that could be something that's on your card. Have a website that has all your socials, your YouTube channels, so that you have another way of getting yourself out there digitally that doesn't cost anything while you're going and hopefully getting to meet with some of these people, some of these future hiring managers. Yeah.
Cool. Good luck.
Thank you.
Me?
You're up.
Cool. Hey, so I'm Larissa. I was a former viz and teleprompter operator at Fox Business and News. Recently laid off almost a month, next month. Long story short, how do you guys handle ghosting from companies, like trying to get back into the field? Advice. That's in person.
Keep applying.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
You can't hold a grudge. They may come back around. You never know. It may be
And
somebody.
might not even remember.
Yeah, they may not remember, and it may be somebody who looked at your resume in that space who got laid off, and they're at a different company, and they're like, oh, I remember your name when I used to work at so-and-so.
Yeah.
So don't be deterred,
Yeah.
One door closes, 40 others open, especially in entertainment and media. And be flexible, I tell people all the time, leave yourself open to not just like one lane, because you never know
So true.
where you can, wind up landing, especially if you have a lot of transferable skills. Don't limit yourself.
It's also kind of like dating, right? It's like, no, seriously, it's like if you are ghosted by a company, it's like sometimes you can look at it as a blessing, like you weren't supposed to be there, it wasn't the right time, like just cut your losses, take the L and keep it playing.
Yeah. Keep at it.
How you doing? My name is Dustin Polanco. I graduated from BMCC.
Cool.
I've actually worked on over 24 movie sets and stuff like that.
Wow.
Not as a PA, as a parking PA.
Nice.
But it was hard to network my way in because we work usually with the Teamsters and whatnot. So my question is really, it's gonna sound a little wild. How do I skip the line?
To what? To what though? Skip the line to what?
Skip the line to be seen as a leader and creative and writing and directing.
Oh, parking PA is difficult,
Yeah,
like you
that's a tough
said,
one.
because it's
so
like,
isolated.
I don't mean to be
so much away
insulting,
from
but it's a
set.
little, it's a little dead end. Like you're gonna move up to parking coordinator. Like
Exactly.
that's, maybe you'll be a Teamster final level, but that's not where it sounds like you want to be.
Exactly.
Make your resume, and just start applying. I mean, coming to stuff like this, networking, talking to people, putting your intentions out there. LinkedIn is a great resource. Getting in Facebook forums and Facebook groups to see like who needs people for the day. Like even though you weren't on set, you have an awareness of what is happening on set. I'm sure.
No, I was on set too. I used to work the day
Okay,
shift,
cool.
so-
So yeah, just putting yourself in those spaces and opening, trying to open those doors. Like people are not going to necessarily be like, hey, we want you to be our lead writer, right off the bat. But you do have to be patient and knowing that you do have a lot to offer, being that you have so many credits already on your resume. So definitely I think you should make a great resume.
And also
for
you should
yourself.
think about, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think also because parking PA is such a specific piece of the puzzle, I think looking at your call sheet and thinking about who can you realistically and appropriately reach out to maybe transfer into like more of the PA route that's on set, which can be a different kind of role that gets you more on set around ADs and directors and producers, so that you're not like siloed in the parking piece of the puzzle. That is, I think, a more realistic also way to start transferring into that line. So you've already been a PA, you've already worked on sets, you have experience, you're reliable. How can you shift from parking PA into like on-set PA?
Yeah.
That feels like something that you could absolutely do.
Yeah, tangible.
And once you're in that role, then you start meeting coordinators, and then you start meeting production coordinators and production managers, and that's a great way to get that.
And one more thing I wanted to add, still come with a positive attitude.
Yes.
Because what we find and we get a lot of people who do parking, who apply to our program, they seem to have like a chip on their shoulder that they've been kind of stuck in parking. Don't be that person. Like, listen, I want to grow from this.
You don't understand what the regular other people on set, we're their enemy because we're not letting anybody.
Oh no,
do
totally.
whatever
My
they
uncle was
want.
a parking PA way back in the day. I understand.
We're the enemy.
Yeah, and you got to throw that all away. Like you got to leave that all at the door. Like
Great
brand new
advice.
start. Once you get into I would start with the AD department. Like, hey, Mr. Second AD or Miss Second or Miss Second, whoever. I'm available for work. Interested in working for your department. I've worked on this many shows. Definitely are eager and ready to learn, and then roll from there. And then parking, it's a distant memory.
I would say even
Right
key PAs as
inside.
well, because generally key PAs are looking to work their way up to being an AD. So if you can't get in good with those that are already established, maybe get in good with those that are looking to establish themselves.
Yeah.
If you keep close to them, maybe they'll remember you.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the right-hand side, just start researching like writing programs, script programs if you haven't already. Because what I'm led to tell you is like, you kind of have to change like your environment. So it's like you want to be a writer, like just surround yourself with writers, be in writing programs, surround yourself with people who want to direct, find like directing programs, things like that.
Yeah, and chances are when you are talking to key PAs, a lot of PAs I know, they're working on their own projects.
Yeah.
And for you to, work, it sucks that you're working for free, but it's a collaborative thing that you guys are all lifting each other, and rising tides lift all boats. You're gonna get experience that way and build your reel for both in your, writing credits, So try to get experience that way as you make your shift.
Short version, that's how I got my start. Meeting a couple of people at one project. One person had his own project that he brought me on, and that's how I got into sound and made a career of it. So
There you go.
All right.
keep that in mind too.
You're up.
Hi, I hope you all are doing well. My name is Megan. I'm a recent graduate, and I've just been really into the film industry since I was a little girl. It's been my dream to be in the industry. So any of you can ask this question, or answer this question, but this kind of goes back to a little bit of what both Venus and can you tell me how to pronounce your name again, please?
Anika.
Anika. Okay, from one South Asian to another, like name
Appreciate it.
pronunciation is important for sure. So, before both of you touched on this a little bit, in terms of diversifying your position within the film industry and having that knowledge to kind of be in all aspects. But just from a strategic point of view, I just want to know if you believe it's kind of wise to put all of your eggs in one basket, or kind of know where you want to go if you already have an idea of like what you are confident in your abilities in the film industry. Like for example, I've done acting in college, and I've also I've done PA work, and I have been told that I should be a voice actress. So I kind of want to I have so many dreams, so I just want to know if it's wise to kind of pinpoint the direction, or kind of put all my desires into one go.
Yeah. First of all, I relate to that. I felt that way in college, and I was like, is this a problem, or should I figure it out? But I think experimenting is key. If you want to voice act, see if you could find someone who's in animation school right now and are looking for voice actors for their project, and you can collaborate that way, add that to your reel. Similarly, if you want to act, I know NYU, Queens College, that's CUNY, represent always, all day. But, when we had to do projects, or film projects, we had to look for actors, and sometimes we would use our own department, but if you end up getting in those Facebook groups or know a friend of a friend, you could act in those, and that could be in your reel. I think the key is not to put your eggs all in one basket just yet. Okay. The only reason why I say this is because I think you can find out what your strengths are and what you're good at, and also find out what you love to do. I find that sometimes those two don't always go hand in hand. So you might find that you're really good at something, and you might find, it's not something you love, but it might be something that could give you income. But then you find something that you really love, but you need experience in, or you need to work at it. And that is, in that way, if you want to do acting, maybe do an acting program, take a seminar, things like that. So yeah, I feel like don't put all your eggs in one basket just yet.
I feel like never put all your
Never?
eggs in
Right?
No, never.
I feel like I'm not gracious enough yet to say that.
I guess I've been around a while. Never put your eggs in one basket. Oh, you may have plans. I grew up, I always wanted to work in TV, right? And look at where I am. I didn't know kindergarten, a director of programs was a thing. The tide will take you sometimes. You may be good at one thing, and your friends may be pumping you up and telling you you're good at another thing, and then the world and society and your supervisors and whoever you're working with may decide that you're really good at this thing and continue honing that craft, and you start getting paid a lot of money for it. You don't want to be a starving artist for too long either. At some point you're going to figure out what you're good at. I definitely know people who don't want to give up on the dream, and they need to give up on the dream sometimes just to pay their bills. And that's being realistic. I feel like if you feel like you're at a point in your life where you don't have a super high level of responsibilities, and you're flexible enough to do free trainings and free work for people and shadowing people and coming out to events and stuff, do everything. Everything, and don't just stick to one thing, because you have options. So eggs are no. Even when you get settled, there's still more.
There's
so much more.
Definitely.
As long as you wake up every day and there's breath in your body, there's always various opportunities. So don't limit yourself.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Go get it. All right.
Hi, my name is Paul. I graduated from Brooklyn College 2018.
Cool.
My question is kind of sort of more based on what I'm feeling right now. I love that you guys talk about decision making and how important that is, and how failure is, you give yourself that threshold of there's going to be a couple times you're going to fail. It's just natural. I want to know, currently I work for city government. And I work for the Office of Technology and Innovation. Cool. And I'm sort of in a spot where I don't know if I want to continue there, or if I want to go into what I studied in school, which was television and radio. I want to know like what the work and life balance is for everyone here. You know, like how does that like, you know, how different is it from 9 to 5? You know.
Oh, a 9 to 5.
For city government.
Yeah.
Okay.
What a pension.
Can I answer this?
But so boring. But so boring. I understand. I get it. Someone on our staff who just started working with us last year came from city government, and even though I'm in a 9 to 5 environment now, it's a little bit more fun because we're still in the TV and film environment. Sorry, we're not hiring, but I get it. Like it's something our parents did, right? And you probably want a little bit more. While you have a 9 to 5, you have so many benefits of having so many more hours in the day than most people who work freelance like Brian, who's probably working 14, 15 hours.
Average.
Right, average. Probably off on weekends, create. I don't know what it is you want to do in the TV and film world.
Well, you know, I fell in love with like editing, you know, video editing, and I did that a lot. Well, at least, you know, it feels like I did a lot, but then when you graduate and you kind of don't stay connected with everyone, like you mentioned that, like you stay in touch with your classmates or anything like that. It kind of feels like you're like alone almost, and then you're sending out your resume, but your resume is, you know, I trained new hires or whatever. It's not necessarily the same as, you know, writing or, you know, I don't have like that.
Naquan mentioned training programs. Definitely look into them. Brick is a great one. You know, refresh your skills in the editing space. Meet people in those, you know, community-based programs. You know, every borough has
I was just about to say
a community channel. Where you can learn, you know, editing software. What's the newest technology? Meeting people, being on LinkedIn in those groups, challenging yourself to learn a little bit more. And seeing where you can just kind of dive in and do like some people have independent projects that they need edited.
Yes.
Maybe start there, you know.
Do you, and are you asking the question, and I just want to clarify, like because you're currently in a 9 to 5 and you're thinking about switching and you want to understand the work-life balance differentiation?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Like I know the reputation.
I think a part of it is also, you know, perhaps before you make the shift, to Venus's point, you're working 9 to 5, you still have your 5 to 9, right? I mean, unless you have all kinds of things like children and other stuff, which of course changes things. But if you don't have any of that stuff yet, then, you know, you can also maybe start working on some of these things in the other hours of your day because you do have such a nice fixed sort of like time, and explore and see if it ends up being worth it to you. Do you really enjoy that? Are you enjoying it? Are you good at it? Are you making relationships? In which case it could help you to make that step. Because, you know, if you're someone like me who's an entrepreneur and you want to, let's say, build a company. I worked at Viacom for 8 or 9 years, and I started Culture House 5 years ago. Building your own company as an entrepreneur and looking for your own work and building your team, that takes all of you. There's just no way around it. And, you know, and to get too personal, I basically I put off having children until I was older, and now you're always figuring out how to do the things. And I think if that's what you want to do, it will take up all your time. There's anyone who tells you otherwise is like, it's just not true. But you have to really want it. But if you're working at a network or a platform, you will have a little bit more flexibility, right? So it depends also where you want to go. Are you looking to be independent? Are you looking to work for a production company? Are you looking to work for a platform? So you can create that for yourself. But yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, but yeah.
Save money before you quit.
Yeah, save money before you quit, and also like make sure you actually want to do it. Yeah, you know, yeah. You're up.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm currently a student here at SVA, and it was mentioned about, you know, applying to internships and jobs, and, you know, if you get rejected, keep applying. But do you have any advice on how to stand out in your application and on your resume?
Well, my advice always is do your research. I get so many incoming that I ignore, sadly, because I can tell that it's generic. And I know that sounds obvious to a lot of us, but really do your research. If you want someone to pay attention to you, please give them the respect of saying, I've paid attention to you already, and I know why I'm applying to you. And that always stands out to me. Hey, I saw this TV show that you guys made, or I watched this episode that you directed, or something that I'm like, okay, this person has a reason for contacting me, right? Because then I also feel like I can be more helpful to you, right? So do your research and be really specific when you're reaching out to people, and like, why them? Why this company? Or why this producer? Or, what it is. So that to me is a big one, and it stands out immediately.
Yeah. You could also there's a few things, right? So say if you see a job on LinkedIn, right? You have notifications set. It's a ping when you get on LinkedIn, and you the job. Then if you're social weird, I would follow the hiring. They also get a ping after you apply for the job on Twitter. Yes. Do that.
Thank you. My name is Abby. I'm a current graduate of Hunter College, and this question is specifically, well, I can't answer, but it's specific for Ms. Klon. I noticed, say you started off news and then transitioned into entertainment, and I do see the same thing myself as well. I mean, something completely different. However, I wanted to venture into, and so one thing for a fact that I struggle with, I mean, I network, but this I struggle with called branding. I want more advice and tips on how to develop that and for yourself. What tips do you have towards building your brand, and at the same time too, do you also suggest for us to during the process, the development of our brand, self-branding process, to again put our our eggs in one bag instead of having that advice scattered, I don't know how to say, you really want to do everything, but hone in on at the same time while also developing my.
Yeah. Are you asking me this? I think it's like an activity I was. It's if you describe yourself in 5 different, write that down. I'm reliable, I'm dependable, humorous, I'm compassionate, right? It's all of those things. So that's your brand. It's who you are. How then can I work my way out to make sure my website says that, my socials say that, my business cards say all of those things that I know about myself? Boom, right? How can I then, when I walk into a room, I, myself, Naquan, say all those things? I'm passionate, I'm humorous, and whatever, right? And that's I think that's just it. That's the start of it. In terms of, I guess if I understand the second part of the question is putting your eggs in one basket in terms of your brand or who you are, or you saying I would suggest making sure that it's as narrow, but you stick to those things that you know about yourself, that you feel confident about yourself, and that is essentially your brand. There's nothing else.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And I think also maybe it might be helpful to tailor a little bit of it depending on what job you're going for. If it happens to be in, as you said, if you're not totally sure, news, you would tailor it a little different than maybe, if you're applying to BET. But it's great. That's great advice. I wish. Where were you when I was applying, huh? But knowing those things about yourself is really great when you're first starting out, because those things will carry over for whatever job you're applying for.
Yeah, and it could take 15 minutes, a little journal.
Listen, I practice in the mirror, so.
Yeah, that too.
Let me see. Yeah.
It could get Issa Rae. You
can Issa Rae, yeah.
Did that help? Was that helpful?
Oh no, It was very helpful. Thank you so much, guys.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed the panel this evening, and thank you all so much for your time. It's really appreciated, and I thought I got some great advice too, so thank you. Thank you. Right. So please keep checking checking out CENTCOM. Come to the rest of our programming this fall and our summits, and we love to have you. So thank you again.